Hey guys, what's up? It's Game, and I just had another video for you guys today. It's a Batman Arkham Knight review and thoughts. Um, d- review and thoughts video. And today we are going to be looking at my list of things that I thought were would made Batman Arkham Knight really good, and some things that I will nitpick at things that made the game just a little bit less than it should have been. But before I get into all that, I just want to say no one makes a game as good as Rocksteady does. These Batman games have been the best Batman games we've seen by far. So without further ado, let's get into the list. Starting off with, we're gonna start with number one, which is gameplay. Okay, so the gameplay in this game was really good. I have really no complaints in the gameplay. Although I don't know why the ground takedown is still slow. Other than that, I'd say the gameplay is as usual. You'll find it very similar to the other Arkham games, although now it is much more fluid and is not as needed. Well, it's not as slow as it was in the previous Arkham games, and it's quite a lot of fun. And you'll have an easy time learning how to play the game if you're a newcomer. So the second thing I want to talk about is the Riddler. The Riddler keeps you very intrigued in this game and always solving his crazy riddles. There are very different riddles you have to solve in this game in order to finally fight with him at the end. And he takes Catwoman hostage also, so that you have to solve his crazy death traps and riddles and use the Batmobile for all his schemes. Okay, so the third thing I want to talk about, speaking of Batmobile, is the Batmobile. Now, a lot of people are complaining that the Batmobile is too frequently used, too tanky, too sluggish, and is just too overused. I actually do not mind it. I think it was a great idea, and I think they're just trying to show what their game has new to it and is not just a repeat of Arkham City or Asylum. It really makes the game different and unique. Okay, so now we're on number 4, boss fights. Boss fights were pretty interesting in this game. There weren't too many of them, and this is where the game lacked a little bit, was in boss fights, because in boss fights there were not many. But when they were there, they weren't too bad. I mean, I did get that there were a lot of Batmobile boss fights, but even that, you have to expect that Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Origins had tons of boss fights in them, and they didn't want to flood us with boss fights. I guess they were going for more of a narrative story in this one to see whether the fans will like it or not. Okay, now number 5, which is side missions. The side missions were all good in this game. Even introduced some new villains to the franchise, which was great. And yeah, I wish there would have been a little more boss fights and interactions with those characters. For example, the Hush boss fight was not. That was not really a Hush boss fight. It was more of just trying to close up what they did in City, even though it seemed like Hush was gonna have a major part in this game due to the fact of how well they built him up in City. Moving on, we got number 6 at Dual Play. When Dual Play was there, it was probably the funnest time you're ever gonna have in a game. Between switching between Robin and Batman, Batman and Nightwing, and Batman and Catwoman, it's just a major fun, and you're gonna enjoy it. I mean, there's no real complaints in the Dual Play. I mean, the major complaint I have with Dual Play is that it wasn't there enough. Like, they showed us a lot of trailers with Batman and his sidekicks, and they showed us a lot of footage of them taking down people, but really, it just wasn't there long enough. You mostly play the game as Batman, and you do not really get to play as these characters that much. Moving on, number 7, major spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't gotten this far in the game yet. This is we're gonna talk about Arkham Knight's identity, and I know a lot of people's major complaint is that it was too obvious to see coming. It was very predictable. Now, even though I can say yes, we all saw it coming, it was very predictable, and we all knew who it was. Unless you're a newcomer and you're not really into this Batman stuff and all the comics, but we all saw it coming. It was well, most of us saw it coming anyway. It was Jason Todd, and a lot of people complained that it was too predictable and that it didn't build up well. I actually thought it was pretty good, considering the fact that they hadn't introduced Jason Todd in this universe yet, and that they tried to explain how he fit into this universe, in this game. They even said how he was being. They even showed how he was being tortured by the Joker and all that. And it was pretty intriguing. And the conversations between him and Batman were very well connected. I'd say in this universe, and very very good. Although he lacked in boss fights and didn't really have that hand-to-hand combat fight with Batman, he was still a very intriguing villain and did pose a threat to the Dark Knight if he wouldn't have figured out who the Dark Knight was. The only complaint I have with this is that the story is a little gapped because after you find out who he is, you don't see him again till the end, and for some reason he saves you. Now I'm not sure if that's because he feels like he needs to save Batman because Batman didn't really want to fight him too much, but I just know one thing, and it was that he still wants to be a good guy, and that's what makes him become the Red Hood. Moving on to the last and final topic, this kind of strays from the main game, and my last topic is the Batgirl DLC. Now, the Batgirl DLC was a very good DLC, considering the fact that Rocksteady actually didn't make it, but WB Montreal did make it. My main complaint with this is that it was too short. It's much shorter than the Cold Heart or Harley Quinn's Revenge or any of those, because as much as this is different from those DLCs, this did not have the a long story or too much of a driven story. It was kind of just what they described it as. It's just she goes to save her father and rescue a couple of cops on the way and defuse some bombs in the small area. It's not too big of a deal. It's only an hour long. Well, an hour and 15 minutes actually, if you want to be specific. Um, I'd I'd say if you're having doubts about getting this DLC, I mean, I don't know if it's really worth the $7 if you want to get it, but I really don't have too much an opinion. I mean, if you really want to try it, go ahead. It's pretty good. The boss fight is really good at the end. It shows some dual play between not just you and Robin, but also Joker and Harley Quinn. So, if you're doubting it a little bit, but at the same time you really want to see the gameplay, I mean, it's worth a try. But my main complaint to WB Montreal is that this was not long enough and it did not hold up those standards to Cold Heart and Harley Quinn's Revenge. Now that's all I had for you today, and I know I said this would not just be a thoughts video but a review video. My number for this game would probably be 9.5 just as Game Informer rated it, because I think that's fair enough rating, because with all its good things, it did have some things that became a nuisance and just really didn't help the game too much. So I just hope that Rocksteady keeps pushing all the DLC towards this game. It's a major game, and if you haven't gotten it yet, you should definitely try it. Okay? So that this is Game signing off, and I will see you soon.